How has technology impacted your field, especially in damage assessments and reporting?
Well, when we first started, this was our technology. It was a yellow pad.
And a pen.
A yellow pad and a pen and a measuring tape and a Polaroid camera that you had to let process while it was there, and you charged by the photographs. So, with the inventions of the tablet, the smartphone, I mean, I can have access to any documents I need while I'm on site. One of the biggest things that has happened in technology is, outside the iPhone, the iPad, we have a camera now with a dimensioning system that can give us all of our dimensions. I can take my smartphone and walk into a room and dimension it in about 10 seconds versus taking a measuring tape and measuring it out, the width, width, and the height, and the doors. It does all this for you
Right.
in a short period of time.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the AI Now Partners podcast, where we dive into real conversation with leaders driving innovation across the insurance and operations space. I'm your host, JK Jetomo, and today I'm excited to welcome someone who brings a wealth of experience in the world of building consulting, insurance claims, and expert witness services. Dan Connell, President of US Building Consulting Group. Hey Dan, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm really looking forward to learning from your experience. So, to kick things off, do you mind introducing yourself and tell us a little about your background and how you got started in the building consulting and expert with the space?
Yes, so I had a really unique early start in my career. When I was 5, I got my first set of Lincoln log sets. And I started playing in the yard and building, and became a passion for building. I grew up in a family of construction builders, and at 16, I was leading a framing crew and worked in construction. Spent 9 years at UPS and concurrently worked in construction at doing management at UPS, and then wound up going in 1991, started my contracting business, and for about 30 years did restoration, renovation, repairs as a contractor. Started out as a team of one, just me. And when we sold it, we had around 48 employees, doing around $5 to $6 million worth of restoration and renovation business a year in the Southeast. And so, we've transformed that into 2005, started doing some building consultant work with PTNC, started their building consultant division, and they sold, we left, and started Surgon with Cunningham Lindsay, which is now Sedgwick Direct Repairs. And then in 17, we went on our own and been on our own ever since as a building consultant service provider to the insurance industry, as well as some private market. We do private market work for an independent third party construction expert. We work for whomever wants to hire us, whoever wants the truth.
Wow, wow. That's a quite track record there.
For 25 years, we were on multiple direct repair programs. We marketed to the insurance industry in the Southeast, and we actually did the repairs ourselves and did the work, and that's where our experience comes from. And then 2005 to 2008, we transitioned into the building consultant space and wound up selling the contracting business. And so now we just do the consulting, the expert witnessing, the appraisal inside the policy, you know, in the service in the industry with estimation, scope of repair, method repair, period of restoration, those items in our space.
Wow. And with that, let me try to zoom out for a moment and talk about what you're seeing across the industry today. And let's start by looking at the big picture. What major shifts are you seeing in insurance claims consulting and building diagnostics over the past few years?
Well, in the past few years, I would think back into the 90s when we were first getting started. It was
Hmm.
mostly a bid-based business. And then as we progressed in the 2000s, the companies came out and they started using more of the technology, and they came out with claims-based software for doing estimation, and that became a very good trend, even though it has some issues with it because it's just a tool. And one of my clients used to make this slogan, which is really true, is a tool in the hand of a fool is nothing but a fool with a tool. So if you don't know how to use it, you can make some mistakes. I can take a hammer and I can do trim work in a house and very finished, nice looking trim work, but I can also take a hammer and do demolition work and tear things up. So if you don't know how to use the tool,
Right.
you can make some mistakes. But the last 2 to 3 years, the industry is transitioning back into the bid work where we're actually writing the scope and getting live bids from contractors that can do the work versus just producing a document that says, here's what the work would cost and here's why. And so that's been a trend that's changing. The one of the major changes that has happened is the insurance companies can, if it's in their policy, can authorize the repairs themselves versus paying a check and having the homeowner
Right.
or the insured do it. And that's starting to happen more and more where the repair protocols being done by the insurance company, paying a contractor to go do the repairs versus just writing a check and hoping that the other folks, the people can do it themselves. That's
Yeah, well,
probably
that makes a lot of sense, especially as the complexity of claims continues to grow, you know. You mentioned, the you have like how documentation, how become more important. And technology, you mentioned that it must play a big role in keeping up with that demand. So how has it changed the way you and your team operate in the field? Like how has technology impacted your field, especially in damage assessments and reporting?
well, when we first started, this was our technology. It was a yellow pad.
And a pen.
A yellow pad and a pen and a measuring tape and a Polaroid camera that you had to let process while it was there, and you charged by the photographs. So, with the inventions of the tablet, the smartphone, I mean, I can have access to any documents I need while I'm on site. One of the biggest things that has happened in technology is, outside the iPhone, the iPad, we have a camera now with a dimensioning system that can give us all of our dimensions. I can take my smartphone and walk into a room and dimension it in about 10 seconds versus taking a measuring tape and measuring it out, the width, width, and the height and the doors. It does all this for you
Right.
in a short period of time. Satellite imagery has really changed because in the past, in the 90s, we would climb up on a roof. And regardless of how complex it was, we had to measure every angle and tie it all together and make a drawing. Now, when I show up on a roof claim, I have a drawing with me that I've already gotten, and I just confirmed the measurements and in the slopes and different things. The drones have made a huge help. We have thermal imaging drones where we can actually go over the top of a roof and see if it's wet or not. Versus used to we'd have to core it in multiple places and do destructive testing. Now we can take the satellite drone, the drone
Right.
thermal imaging and know in about 2 or 3 hours. It comes with a degree of difficulty because you have to do it after dark. You can't do it if it rains, because the moisture shows up on top or bottom. But it's a huge tool. Even the measuring devices, lasers to help you measure items. And I think one of the first things that we got was the internet. We didn't have it when I started, but the internet gives us lifetime where I can check things in the field. I can use my iPad. I can check on code. Before I had 2 or 3 different code books, one for every year, and I'd have to go through that book and find out what the code is. And now I can do a specific search and get to that exact area in just a few moments. And so it collapses the time frames of having to research. So those are
Well,
the
that's right.
main tools that we use.
Yep. And it's amazing how those tools are enhancing accuracy, but you're also right. It's still about having the right expert behind the tech because, the tech will, do it by itself. That leads me to another angle. With all these changes, are there any regulations or insurance industry shifts that have forced your team to adapt your process?
Well, there's not a lot of regulation on the construction consultant experts. You have adjusters and public adjusters that get licensed and engineers that are licensed. One of the shifts has been some of the states have tried to license some of the appraisal inside the policy, and they've not had good success because while they go and give you a license and you qualify, I relate it to my 16-year-old granddaughter who's getting a driver's license on Monday. Well, she'll pass a test and she'll have a license, but she has no experience in driving. So the experience factor is a major, if you don't know how to take that license and use it and to apply it, then it's just a license. So there has to be some training, there has to be some experience gained rather than just a license. And I see the fallacy of, hey, I've got this license, I can do this. And we see lots of errors from folks that don't have experience.
Well, yeah, it sounds like maintaining credibility and consistency has never been more important. So, with that landscape in mind, let's try to zoom in a bit on your business. What's your current focus right now in growing US Building Consulting Group?
Well, the biggest thing that, I believe as growing is we want to grow organically. We're not looking at just quantity without quality. I think as the mergers are happening and the companies are being acquired, it becomes a bottom line business versus of doing the right thing all the time and keeping the quality to where it needs to be. Quantity is important and making money is important, but doing it the right way with integrity, doing it the right
Uh,
way with being thorough, not taking shortcuts. And, I refuse to hire someone who isn't qualified to come in and give them a role just because we need somebody in that area, because I believe that would be detrimental to us long term. And I see that happening in the industry as there's pressure from the private equities companies acquired by the private equities to just get to the bottom line, and it's not about taking care of the people. Culture is one of the things I think that gets missed in our industry. Is the culture that we have is most important. One of I believe my most important role is having a positive culture, being positive. You can have accountability for correct work in a positive fashion. And communication, as we've gotten more technology, people don't talk to people. And that's very important. You can't build a relationship by just sending a text or an email. Sometimes you got to pick up the phone or you got to meet somebody face to face. Being thorough in what you do, not dependent on, not dependent on the technology to do your job for you. We don't have, there's all kind of different AI things that we could use to help do our reports, but we'd lose our personal touch. And while we use it for checking, for spelling and making sure that the commas and the periods and the grammar are correct, we don't use it to tell our story because it can't tell our story the way that we can. It can assist, but it can't tell our major story. But, grow organically with quality is a priority over quantity. And the quantity is important, but you can't have quantity without quality, or I believe it would all go away.
Right, right. That's right. And I love the one that you said about open communication because I believe the vision of USBCG is about fact-based consulting. You are, you really are on the standpoint of integrity, and smart growth really is key in such a technical space as well. So. You mentioned about hiring and maintaining standards. What kind of internal metrics or KPIs help you keep quality and performance on track?
Well, we have a system, a claims management system, and we touch every one of our files every 2 weeks, and we have one person who's assigned to follow up to make sure that that's being done, because you don't want things to fall through the cracks. And when you do, a 2 or 3 thousand losses in a year, if you aren't careful, you can drop some. So having that small follow up to no file goes untouched every 2 weeks is one important process. Ensuring that they're communicating. We have three minimum points of communication. Once when they get the loss, second when they're on site, and the third time is when they finish and complete the loss to make sure that no one has any questions or any concerns. So that the line of communicating, making sure that they're communicating. We do peer reviews where we look over their work. We help them to make sure that if there's anything that looks odd, I mean, people make mistakes. It's called estimates because it's not exactly 100% always perfect, but you look for the common mistakes to make sure that everything's, if there's something that's out of whack or out of line in normal. And then, just telling the story. I field train the guys when they come in. I look over their stuff. I go with them on site. I don't just hire somebody and send them out on their own. I go with them and I spend time with them and make sure they know what our expectations are. We have an onboarding process that our admin department, Grace and Jim and Blake, have perfected, really worked at to make sure that they get the training to do the paperwork and the documentations and to know what our expectations are so that those metrics are met and exceeded. You have minimums, but when somebody communicates and builds a relationship with a client, the client will call you up and ask you a question versus call me up and ask a question. So we try to pass that on to our team. Get to know them, get to know who they are. It's just not about work. There's lots of people that we could hire that are very talented. They're talented contractors. They know how to do the work. They know how to estimate it, but they don't know how to deal with people. And if you can't deal with people in a positive way and have a good culture where we're all pulling on the same rope, then it will be an adversarial place to work and it would be agitating. And we don't want that. We want to have a team that works together, that pulls together. We're all pulling for the same rope. Our goal is to help our team succeed. And the best way that we
Right.
can help them succeed is they have success, and each one of them has different goals. They don't all have my goals. They don't have the goal of the guy next door. Each one of them have their goals. So one of the things that I believe is important and different for us is we help each one of them reach their goals. And if they reach their goals, then they're happy. The culture's good. And if it's a person that only wants to work part-time, then maybe we have two part-time people. No, we don't replace them. We keep the good people. And then that way we have, and most of the guys that work with us have been with us for a long period of time. And they're some of my best friends. So, we want to, you can't work with your enemies. So you want the people that you work with to be your friends and to be your coworkers, not your employees, say is an important role for us.
Well, that the trust factor is huge, and it sounds like your relationships play a big role in how clients find you as well. So, could you walk us through how you typically acquire new clients? Are most coming through legal team, or is it a broader mix, like through insurance carriers or property owners directly?
What we do is we have a strategic growth team, and we approach multiple markets. We approach the insurance carriers. We approach the brokers. We approach the litigation teams for when the files are in litigation. We do a good bit of that work. And we approach private market work. We do some work for the real estate industry on assessing their properties. We do some high-end net worth work. So, we're about 90% insurance and 10% non-insurance, and our goal is to be about 80 and 20. And then our strategic marketing team goes to those areas. Now, our growth team, they go to those areas and bring in the clients to us. And then we try to build a relationship with those clients and perform the tasks that they need. I think one of the things that we do is when they bring us somebody to us, we ask them specifically, what do you want us to do? And then we answer that specific question. Too many times I've seen in the past where there's a lot of files and people do a lot of different claims, and they see a lot that are similar and they try to relate it to what they did in the past. Everyone is new to itself and it's unique to itself. So you can use those for past experiences, but I can't take a job from Joe that wants one thing and JK who wants another and give them both the same thing, because then I'm
Right.
not servicing their needs. So it's a specific need to that specific client, whether it be in the real estate field, whether it be in the commercial space, insurance space, attorney space. What exactly do you want and how do you want me to present that to you? And I think that's unique because sometimes they really don't know, and we have to discuss it and figure out what they need and how to get to that point. And I think that makes us unique in our industry versus just having a boilerplate. Well, we're going to go do this for you or that for you. And
Right.
answering the specific items.
Yep, that's totally right. I totally agreed on that. And building that network, clearly pays off to where you are now. So let's try to shift gears now and look ahead. Over the next year or two, what's your vision for the company's growth?
Well, our growth, as we said before, I mean, we want it to be organically, and we would like to be around 10 to 20% growth, finding the right people and finding the right items. There's two parts of our industry that you can see some growth that looks really unorganic and fast. Say a major hurricane hits, our business will double and triple. But then when the hurricane doesn't hit, what do you do? So you have to maintain those daily relationships. So, we run a business now that's growing without a major hurricane for 2 years, which is encouraging. But when a major hurricane or a major event comes in, then, like the wildfires in California were a spike in business. But when Hurricane Katrina came in and when Hurricane Harvey came in to South Texas, we grew it enormously, but then that's not sustained growth. So you want to grow your core business 10 to 20% a year, knowing that you may double at any particular time just due to the magnitude of a major event.
Well, yeah, love the focus on developing your bench strength organically and, staying regional but specialized. And in terms of demand, are you seeing more growth in insurance litigation work or disaster response?
Well, disaster response is dictated on the disaster. So there has to be a disaster for that to grow. But the litigated
Right.
response has been a major growth area for us because, I mean, more and more things are challenging, more things are being challenged. The opposite side of the insurance side is folks, and you see all the ads, let us maximize your dollars. We want to get your dollars. And I'm just opposed to that. I think we need to get the right dollars for the right fit for the right time, not just maximize, see how much we can get. Because at the end of the day, we all are part of our insurance companies. And when insurance severity goes up, our rates go up. My homeowner's rates
Right.
goes up and yours. And so we want to make sure, and we want to do the right thing. And they're insured. They paid for the insurance. They need the product that they need, that they paid for, but they don't need to maximize it and get more than that, because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't work into the equation long term. But the litigation is the largest area that we've seen the growth in litigated files, versus in 2008, probably 10% and probably 30-40% now.
Yeah, right. And it definitely sounds like your expertise is most valuable where, precision and defensibility matter most. With all that in motion, I have to ask, what keeps you up at night these days?
If there's a major storm, I may hear the thunder and lightning, but I really don't have anything that keeps me up at night. I think when you have a good culture and you do the right things and you present yourself and you give your 100% effort, I don't have anything that keeps me awake at night worrying about. I'm going to do all I can do, and all I can do is all I can do. One of my favorite Bible verses is in Ecclesiastes. Solomon, one of the wisest men ever, says, "Whatever your hands may find to do, do it with all your might." And so, if I give it everything I have, then I have peace when I lay down at night. I don't have anything left over to worry
Right.
about.
And then you mentioned that you have, especially when you have a great team that, has that great relationships. Talking about staffing or rising costs or industry shifts, that's not something that you worry no more.
We don't worry about it, but we're aware of it. I mean, we look daily.
Mm,
We use different things. The PLRB, the LinkedIn post, the different licensing requirements, states that are moving in different directions. So we have to keep on the leading edge of the industry shifts, but we have to be flexible. We can't sit there. I mean, we don't get a vote when a state says, "Hey, we're going to go license, and then you got to do this requirement." We got to make a shift and make that adjustment. Can't say, "Oh no, we don't want to do that." So we're going to operate without it, because we want to be in compliance with everybody. So, but the industry is always changing. I mean, it's just, you got to stay on top of it and stay the training, and do lots of research and reading, and look at the materials. I mean, Texas came out with a class 4 shingle that is resistant to 2.5-inch hail. And we just had a loss where they were claiming 1.5 inch, and we brought the document out, and this is what it is. It's a warranty item. It's not a claim if it's damaged. And those are things that weren't available in the past. So looking at what manufacturers have, going to industry trade shows, and keeping up, the good thing about doing the private market work is it really keeps a pulse on what the real costs are, and what's maintenance is, and what's replacement costs are. And that's one of the reasons we want to do that, so that we have that ability to know real life cost outside of the insurance world, and what everybody's doing, flashings that change, new products that are available. And we learn that by being aware and researching to see what those items are.
right. And those are real and ongoing pressures, especially when quality and credibility are non-negotiable. Well, Dan, this has been incredibly insightful. Thank you for walking us through your experience and the state of the industry. And for sure, a lot of people will be curious on where to find USBCG and Dan Connell. Can you tell us where people can find you online?
You can find us at LinkedIn, Dan Connell at USBCG. We have a USBCG on LinkedIn, and we have a USBCG website that you can find us. And we'd be glad to connect if anybody has any questions or thoughts.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dan Connell, for your time. Thank you so much, everyone.